All right, let's talk about something called the narrative architecture protocol. It's this really clever, surprisingly simple way to take a bunch of facts that nobody's going to remember and turn them into a story you can't forget. Why does it work so well? Because it's built around the way our brains are actually wired. So let's get right into it. This quote right here from Albert Tan, who actually created the protocol, this is it. This is the entire problem we're trying to solve. I mean, think about it. We are drowning in information, data, facts, all day, every day. But if you don't have a way to organize it, a structure to hang it on, our brains just hear, well, noise. And this is exactly what that noise looks like in our heads. It's just a random jumble of words. There's no connection, no path from one idea to the next. And you know what our brain does when it sees this? It just checks out. It discards most of it. This is information overload, and it's the real reason so many presentations and lessons just fall flat. So let's frame this as the start of our story today. This is the problem, right? The challenge is making information actually stick. We've got all these little points of light, all this data, all these facts, but if you don't connect them to form a constellation, they're just random meaningless stars in a big dark sky. I mean, come on, we've all been there, right? You're sitting in a meeting, you're nodding along, everything seems to make perfect sense, and then you walk out the door and poof, it's gone. That feeling, that frustration, that's not you. It's not a failure of your memory, it's a total failure of the delivery method. Okay, so if the problem isn't our brains, what's the actual solution? Well, it turns out it's not about finding better, shinier facts. It's about understanding the very hardware we're running on, our own minds. The real key is hiding in the psychology of how we remember things. And it all comes down to this really powerful idea from evolutionary psychology. See, for thousands and thousands of years, our survival literally depended on our ability to remember narratives. Stories like, hey, don't eat those little red berries, remember what happened to Og? Or follow this specific pattern of stars to get to the water source. Our brains were never built for spreadsheets, they were built for stories. And that leads to this huge shift in how we need to think. We have to stop presenting topics, which just feel like a checklist, an obligatory list of facts, and start building narrative arcs. We need to take people on a journey that promises some kind of transformation. It's the difference between a textbook you have to read for class and a Netflix show you literally cannot stop watching. And this brings us to the big reveal, the climax of our whole explainer here, the solution to all this noise. It's called the Narrative Architecture Protocol, or NAP for short. And it's the framework designed to do exactly what we've been talking about. So what is it? Simply put, NAP is a system for turning anything you need to communicate into a classic 3-act story. The reason it's so powerful is that it works with our brain's natural wiring, not against it. It taps into our built-in talent for remembering stories to make your message incredibly memorable and effective. Okay, so how do you actually do this? What does it look like in practice? Well, the beauty of this whole protocol is just how simple it is. It takes whatever information you have and organizes it into that classic 3-act structure we all know and love. This structure is a classic for a reason. It just works. In Act 1, you start with the problem, the inciting incident. But you have to introduce a problem that your audience genuinely cares about, something they can connect with. That's your hook. Then, in Act 2, the rising action, you build the tension. You walk them through the struggle, the failed attempts, the hunt for an answer. And then finally, Act 3. That's the climax, the resolution, the big payoff, where you reveal your idea as the ultimate solution that solves that initial problem. But here, right here, is where this protocol gets really interesting and powerful. It has a very specific core rule for how to handle the #1 source of noise in most presentations, data. And it completely flips the script on how we're all taught to use it. We have all seen this slide or a version of it 1,000 times. It's a table, it's just a bunch of data. Sure, it's accurate, it's informative, and it is completely, utterly forgettable. This is exactly what NAP is designed to stop. Because according to this protocol, and boom, there it is. This just nails the entire philosophy. That -8% growth in Q2, that is not just a number on a spreadsheet. In your story, that's a plot point. That's the crisis in Act 2, the moment of struggle that had to be overcome, which makes that 27% growth in Q3 feel like a huge, triumphant climax. See, the data becomes a part of the journey. It actually drives the story forward. So when you actually start doing this, when you treat your data like plot points and your whole presentation like a story, what's the ultimate payoff? I mean, why bother structuring everything this way? Well, the results are, honestly, transformative. When you use the narrative architecture protocol, you're not a presenter anymore. You're a storyteller. You're not just rattling off facts, you are guiding your audience on an engaging journey that, remember, they are psychologically hardwired to pay attention to and to remember. This is how you finally cut through the noise and create a narrative that really, truly sticks. So the next time you have something important to share, whether it's in a meeting or a classroom, don't just think about what facts you need to present. Instead, I want you to ask yourself this one simple question. What story does this information need to tell? Because the answer to that question, that's the key to turning your noise into a narrative no one will ever forget.